Hello everyone and welcome back to day 8 of the 13 days of Halloween series I've been doing on the channel. And although I won't be able to hit 13, I'm trying to do as much as I possibly can before Halloween. So I rented this movie called The Wolf of Snow Hollow, which I was looking forward to because I heard some good things about it from reviews. And it's a VOD movie, so I rented it for like $6 or $7 on iTunes and I watched the thing. And it's a very indie movie. There's no big actors in it besides one, which I'll get to in a minute. But for the most part, it's a pretty small cast. It takes place in a small town. It kind of has a feel and the tone of Fargo, just because it's in like a Midwestern small town and it's snowing. That might be the only connection to Fargo I can think of, but it kind of had that feel to it. Just kind of had that small town type of vibe, and the characters were equally as that type of Fargo character, where most of the characters in Fargo, they're not necessarily good people, but you still want to follow them, you still want to root for them anyway. This movie is written, directed, and stars Jim Cummings as this cop who is he's kind of a drunk. I mean, he's not kind of a drunk. He's definitely a drunk, and he's going to AA meetings, but he is the sheriff's son, and he works in the police department, and there's a brutal murder that happens in the opening scene of this movie, which was awesome to see. It was really bloody, really great, and it's just the type of stuff you want for this Halloween series. But they start investigating, and some of them think that it could be some animal because it's that gruesome, but Jim Cummings' character thinks that it has to be a person because of the things that they did to that body, and no animal would do those type of things because it felt so purposeful. So he thinks that it was a person, and the rest of the police really think that it's some sort of animal, but he is convinced. And as you see by the title, it's called The Wolf of Snow Hollow. This is indeed a werewolf movie, which I will be getting to spoilers a little bit later on. I will let you guys know when I will be getting to spoilers, but that's the basic premise of this film. And for the most part, I thought it worked fairly well. Like I said, some of the characters are unlikable because, the main character is a drunk and he does some terrible things, and he's kind of irritating at some points of this movie because he is a jerk. And I'll be honest, I don't think Jim Cummings is the greatest actor in the world. I did think he did a fairly well job directing and writing it, but as an actor, I don't think he's the greatest in the world. There's some aspects of his performance that was a bit over the top. There's one great scene though, after I think the second death that happens in this movie, where things are chaotic. There's a bunch of people, the people in the ambulances and the stretchers are coming up, and there's the cops trying to talk to him because at this point he's kind of in charge of this entire case, and everybody's trying to talk to him, and he's trying to deal with all these things happening around him, and it's completely chaotic, and the music that's playing in the background is very comedic, and he does a great job in that scene. And that one scene in particular, his over-the-top performance really did work because it was going for a more comedic tone. Riki Lindhome plays Officer Julia Robson also in this movie, and she is great in this film as well. As those two cops are basically the ones who carry the film. They're the two main ones that are investigating, and she's trying to basically hold him to the ground and keep him on level-headed just state of mind. She's desperately trying to keep him from going insane because, like I said, he might pick up drinking again, and he's been so many years sober, and this entire case is so stressful to him because he's dealing with stuff with his father as well, which his father is played by the late, great Robert Forster, who just passed away earlier this year. And although he has a fairly smaller role in this movie, he had an impact because he's such a great veteran actor, and he's been in so many different things, and it was great seeing him pop up in this movie. And it's very sad that we lost him this year, but he was also really good in the movie, and that relationship between him and his son was very interesting for the most part in this movie. I wish it gave more effort, because this movie's fairly short. It's like an hour and 25 minutes long, so it's not the longest movie in the world, so I wish there was more time to really marinate in that relationship to kind of make things throughout the movie have more impact. And I think at this point I will be talking about spoilers because I do want to talk about the ending of the film, which I really did like. I thought this movie really did land on its feet. And in terms of the mystery aspect of who the killer is, I thought it did a decent job. It didn't really do a great job of setting up it could be all these characters. Like, we just watched all the Scream, or two of the Scream movies for this series, and it doesn't have that type of intrigue of who the killer is. It's kind of what the killer is. Is it a person? Is it an animal? Is it a werewolf? Is there a supernatural element to this movie? That's the real mystery of this film, and I thought by the end of it, it handled it extremely well. Let's just jump straight into spoilers because it kind of has the bulk of my issues are more so spoilery because some things in this movie happen out of nowhere and it just kind of skips over, and I guess that is a detriment to how short this movie is because at one point, like I said, spoilers, when Robert Forster's character does end up dying, it really just smash cuts and he's gone. There's no there's no sitting on that loss. Like I said, with that relationship that has grown between father and son, and how the father he's losing his health and he can't really run everything like he used to be able to do, and his son is trying to take up that role, which is adding to his stress, which is adding to him drinking again. And so I wish this entire storyline, although there is the bones of a great relationship there and a great story there, I don't think the film quite reaches the heights that it possibly could have with an extra 20 to 30 minutes really diving itself deeper into this relationship. Same thing with the daughter of the main character's daughter. That entire relationship between those two was very interesting, but it didn't dive enough into that. I think it covered the father-daughter relationship more so than it did the father-son relationship between Jim Cummings' character with his father and his daughter. But I wish it just dived deeper into these characters, because they had the basis of that relationship with both of those storylines, but it never really got as deep as I wanted it to get. And so throughout this movie, there's the over-the-top performances, there was the lack of super deep character development, although it did reach some great points, but I wanted to go further with that. When it comes to the actual killer element, this is where I think the movie really shined, because towards the end of the movie, I was kind of sinking down low, because there's some points in this movie where, some of the cops just start to assume that it actually is a werewolf, and their leap from, it's some sort of animal to, it's a supernatural werewolf, was pretty fast, and I didn't think it was that realistic. And with the main character really insisting that it was a person and not an animal and not a werewolf, because werewolves are ridiculous, I was kind of struggling with this. Like, we all know it's a werewolf movie. It's called The Wolf of Snow Hollow. But by the end of the movie, when you see who the killer actually is, there's a fake killer. They arrest someone that was like a druggie. He had like a wolf tattoo, and he seemed like the perfect excuse of who the killer actually was. But when it's revealed that it's this really creepy guy with a hunch, he's super, super tall, and he's really skinny, and he just looks really creepy. And this guy, when Jim Cummings is going to ask him to sign a paper for him, and he kind of has some suspicions, and he figures it out in that house, and so he goes back to it, and he tries to break into there, and this guy starts like running, and he starts throwing him against the wall, and he starts stabbing him, cutting him up, and it's really, really gruesome and kind of terrifying. This is the first moment in this entire film where I felt truly unsettled besides the opening scene. Like, this stuff was great, and there's one good kill with the skier about like 30 minutes into the movie, but this ending was really, really effective, because you see this guy at one point put on the wolf suit and starting running away, because he was not an actual werewolf. There's no supernatural element to it. This guy was just, he's super fast, he's super skilled with whatever he was using to cut these people up, and he's just a really messed up serial killer. And I thought that was really fascinating to see that everybody was kind of right at one point. Because, I mean, if he was an actual werewolf, it would have been an animal and it would have been a person. But since it actually is a person and not an animal at all, and it's just this really animalistic, terrifying serial killer, I thought that was a very, very cool way to end the movie. So I think my takeaway from this film is, I think it's a fairly solid movie from Jim Cummings. I think he's a promising director. I don't know if he has anything bigger coming up soon, but for this movie, for this small little rental that you can do, I thought it was definitely worth the watch. I thought it was very entertaining for what it was. It had some great comedic moments, like I said, during that one scene, but for the most part, it took itself really seriously, and maybe it took itself just a tad too seriously, but the over-the-top performances and that slight comedic tone throughout this movie did help that quite a bit. So I really enjoyed this movie. If you guys had any interest in what I said so far about the film and my recommendation for it, maybe go for it. I'm not sure if it's worth the full like $7 rental that it's at right now, but if it ever pops on like a streaming service or it lowers its price for rental, it actually might be worth it. I thought this is a fairly well done sort of werewolf movie with a really cool twist at the end that I really, really did enjoy. So thanks guys for watching this review. Stay tuned for another review on my 13 Days of Halloween series. I'm almost done with it. Halloween is just a couple days away. I have one review for one BR that's coming up, and The Mandalorian is also starting up. So I'll be doing weekly reviews for every episode of The Mandalorian. So I cannot wait for that. It's actually coming out in like an hour. The first episode of Mandalorian is releasing like an hour from now. So I'm recording these and I'm going to watch that and I'm going to record my review for that. So subscribe to the channel, leave a like, comment down below what you guys thought of The Wolf of Snow Hollow if you guys have seen it, or if you have any interest in seeing it. I'd love to hear all of you guys' thoughts. So thanks guys for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.